Here we go. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I'm your host, Matt Belair. Today's guest is an alchemist dedicated to raising the vibration of this planet by empowering life lovers to heal themselves. It is his mission to help you understand and heal aches, pains, and injuries so we can all experience more joy, love, and creativity. Health is our greatest wealth, and he goes straight to what matters most, loving and taking care of ourselves. His purpose is to empower you to heal yourself so you can share all of your gifts, talents, and passions with the world. Welcome to the show, my friend, Charles Clay.
Boom. Thank you for that awesome introduction, Matt. It is so good to see you again, brother. It's been since Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, man. Yeah, we got the privilege to meet at this superhero camp, and you are definitely one high vibe, smiley, energetic, positive, wonderful person, man. And we had a great connection down there. So I'm so excited to share your work and your energy and your wisdom with the audience, because you gave me a few upgrades and I was like, oh, those are wonderful, man. Like, we're definitely going to be friends.
Yeah, I felt the same way, brother. It was instant connection. I loved the way you just freaking glide. You just glide, bob and move, and you're just like radiating this, everybody just enjoy some love, some compassion, and some feel-good vacation vibration. That was like what you were exuding the whole time.
Oh, well, great. I'm glad I can pass your test for the vacation vibration, which is wonderful. So do you want to tell people, well, I want to tell people what that is because it's friggin' brilliant. And just how did you get into this mode of like, you just are naturally really bright. You're really happy, and that's actually one of the things that I noticed. Like, I am generally a happy person, but like not to the level that I feel you experience. And like, you can see when you interact with people, you light them up because that's literally like who you are. And you're just naturally doing it. You're not trying to be happy. You're not trying to light them up. You're just being yourself. So how did you get to be this? And it was just your birthday and I misguessed your age by a long shot. You look at So give us a little background on yourself.
Oh man, where to begin? I have always been a pretty uplifted character to begin with. I think I just found it really easy to stick with the things that make me happy in life. So I have a good way of simplifying things, right? To make them easily digestible so that you can just get the most out of this human experience. Now, with that said, I've also done some down and dirty work. I've been hitting it hard on the self-development. I've been on a great spiritual path. I've been able to serve at a higher level from all this work that I've done. So it definitely has expanded my whole capacity for life. And by sitting in some of the harder emotions, dealing with some of the darkness, you're expanding your whole capacity for life. And with that, you can pull out some golden nuggets that you get to share with the world. And I found a few cheat codes on my path. And now it's just really easy to get back to this natural state of joy, love, compassion, vacation vibration. And when we're at that state, that's when the magic happens. Because when we're in play, when we're enjoying ourselves, we're in a resistant free environment internally. So that literally, if you've worked with Joe Dispenza at all or Abraham Hicks, I mean, we are vibrational beings. So that is unfolding our DNA in real time. So it's unraveling DNA, turning on different genes, turning off different genes. So in those moments, when we combine that heightened state of emotion with a crystal clear intention on what it is we want to call in, that's when the magic happens. And it's quantum physics. It's beautiful.
Awesome, man. Yeah, well, I totally agree. I'm aware of Dispenza's work. I don't know if we discussed that when we were in Egypt, but Dispenza, the life and teachings of the Masters Far East. Actually, I keep saying that, but they say it in a little bit of a different way. Abraham Hicks, Bashar, it's a vibrational thing. And that's the idea, is if you can get into that vibration and hold it, then these kind of miracles or things happen. The challenge is that the day-to-day life is like we're in this lower kind of like state where we're in this basically survival mode, right? Because you got to go to your job. Things are stressed, right? Because you got to meet the deadline, and then you got to get through traffic, and got to do all these things. So maybe you want to start with what the vacation vibration is, because it's awesome. Right. Share with them the food thing you did with me, because that was like such a brilliant little tiny upgrade. I was like, this guy knows his crap, because that was a huge upgrade on something so simple. And maybe how to like give people a practical advice if they're kind of in the muck a little bit. How can we take like a tidbit of this to start to go up the scale?
Yeah. Perfect. So I'll start with where vacation vibration was born with me. So I found myself in Sweden visiting one of my best friends and his family. They took us in, my brother and I, like, it's like finding your new family across the world, right? His mom's cooking up the best foods. We're going on picnics. We end up in this freaking giant waterfall, just eating the best food, enjoying each other's company, jumping off cliffs. And next thing you know, we tapped out our adrenals. We're like ready for a nap on this perfect rock. And I remember laying there in the sun, just basking in this whole experience. And I'm thinking, I can't believe this feeling right now. Flowing through my body is the same energy that creates planets, just flowing to and through me. And there's no way I could contain it. It's just that all I can do is share it. So in that moment, that heightened, ascended feeling that was flowing through me, I declared that I would get published that year and share some of this amazing feeling that I'm experiencing. So, of course, like in our daily lives, right, we have these voices. So as soon as I declare that, then the mind kicked in and the ego was like, wait a minute, who's going to read this? It's going to take you years to write this. Like, how are you going to get published? All these thoughts, right? So what I found was, if I get back into who we truly are, into the seat of consciousness, then it's a place where we can just watch a lot of these thoughts like waves, right? I'm a surfer, so I love this analogy. But you can watch these waves just go by. These are all each thoughts, right? And they each have a magnetic pull, and they want to pull you into identifying with that thought. So if I were to identify with, I'm not a great writer, so there's no way this is ever going to happen. If I jump on that wave and identify with that and write it, then what happens is I feel contraction in my body. I feel like just lower vibration feelings, right? So pull out of that wave with awareness, right? And then I take a better wave. Now this wave is, you know what? I'm open to all possibilities. Like, I understand that there's any number of ways that I could write a book, get published, and I'm open to all of that. In fact, I'm going to tap into the feeling of already being published. So it's training the brain to think from the place of completion. It's not the things that we want, the house, the car, the lover. It's the feeling that we get from that, right? So why not tap into that feeling first and then attract it? So this is when I found that this technique really works, because 3 days later, I got contacted from a guy named Tyler Wagner. He owns Authors United, and he was thrilled to get a phone call with me and tell me how I came highly recommended, and he'd love to have me in this new book project. And I just looked up and said, thank you. This is awesome. So there's a chapter in the book. It's called Better Business Book, and it's about putting 100 entrepreneurs' golden nuggets in business all into one book. So instead of having a whole shelf of hundreds of books that you got to read through to get to all the golden nuggets, this is 100 golden nuggets in one book. And guess what my chapter was called? Vacation Vibration. And it's basically ways to incorporate that feeling, that high vibration, into our daily lives and into our business, right? So it's up leveling where you're currently at. So first, it's about getting back into that seat of consciousness, like pass the breaker and observe, watch the thoughts. Which ones are feeling good in your body? Which ones are taking you in a downward spiral, and you just keep, keep going down in vibration. And that awareness has been the key to my evolution. So I love sharing that analogy, because the more we can get back to that seat of consciousness and enjoy the show and observe it all, even the way it feels in our body, then the more we can connect to the greatest technology on the planet, the human body, and start to understand a lot of the signals and decode what we classify as pain or, like heavy emotions. We're experiencing that for a reason. So if you're willing to sit with that, then there's a lesson in there. There's a meaning. There's some greatness that can come from that, right? It's like we say, make your mess your message. Some of our biggest struggles are the same thing that other people are going through. So if you're willing to do the work and the play to get the golden nugget from that, the lesson, the meaning that you learned, leave the rest, and then share that with the world, that's when the magic happens.
That's wonderful, brother. You said a lot there that I totally agree with. One of them I'll just share from the sport background is when I'm coaching an athlete or something, the idea of getting into the feeling of landing the trick. So one of the athletes that I had was a freestyle motocross rider, and he wanted to land a front flip heel clicker. He had fallen on a front flip, and it's a long story that I've said before, but essentially I was like, you got to get to the feeling of landing the trick before you go try it, because an extreme sports athlete that's going to do that, they could kill themselves literally or severely mangle themselves, break their back, all these kinds of things. So it's matching that vibrational state. And what you talked about was, okay, the first thing is you get this idea and this inspiration for something you want to bring forth, but then regular life does kick in, and there are challenges to bringing anything forth. Lots of them. And the first and probably biggest hurdle to get over is your own mind being a total dick. Just being like, you can't do this. You're not good enough. You didn't go to school. You were a loser when you were in grade 6 and you got beat up by Tommy and, whatever. And that's what the mind does, because it's fearful of this creation. And so if you can overcome that hurdle and then match, and that's the next step that you did, is you improved your quality of thought, and then you decided to match that vibration and sit in it. And Abraham Hicks will suggest, I think, around 15 or 17 seconds. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's going to take a bit of time. You got to match it, right? And so send it out, and kind of let it go also, be grateful and move forward. So you shared a lot of concepts that I'm familiar with and really deep, and are, the people who are doing them are experiencing these results. I just rewatched about half, and I want to watch the end on Gaia. I think it was called the Moses Code, and they do an acronym for God. And the first one is giving, the second one is oneness, and the D, I can't remember. Maybe if somebody watched it, they can remind me or Google it real quick. Destiny. It's destiny. And so those are vibrational states too, like the giving and the vacation vibration and holding that higher state. So what would you recommend for somebody who, or give a few examples of like how else you use the vacation vibration, because the food one was really brilliant. You can take anything that we see that is mundane and really magnify it and make it a beautiful experience. And I think that a theme that's been on the podcast recently was like, life is the miracle. It's not about going outside and getting fifth dimensional and, communicating with spaceships and having like your auras, seeing auras and floating around. Although all of that sounds amazing and I still want to do that. But it's really about the magic that is existing right now, and we're not choosing to connect with it. And I think that's a big part of what you're doing. That's how I saw it anyway, was this simple way to connect with the magic that's existing now. So I'll just give that back to you.
Yeah. It's, as you start becoming more aware and awakened, you'll notice that a lot of patterns are occurring, right? A lot of habits. So then you get to take a look at, are these habits serving me well? Is this working for me or not working, right? So every time I start getting stagnant, or I feel like, I'm getting stuck in the usual habits, it's time for pattern disrupt. So I'll create a scenario, I'll go, we all go to the same places, the same cafes, all our favorite people we hang out with, all the same clothes we wear. So that's fine, but why not incorporate a new intention to create a new experience at each of those environments, right? So if you go to the usual cafe, okay? So I go to Good Anya over here, right? It's right 2 blocks from my place. It's like my Cheers bar, right? Everybody knows me there. It's awesome. So I always have a good time there. And what I like to do is create a new experience just by having a new intention, right? So you're taking ordinary and turning it into extraordinary, and it's essentially doing experiments, right? So an easy one is you go in with a new capacity for love. So my intention is to increase my capacity for love. So when I walk in, I'm already raising that vibration, and then the first person I see is this barista, making coffee. She's having a rough day. So I look her straight in the eyes and I say, I love you, but without saying it. I actually just say it with my heart, my eyes, and through to her, so that all of a sudden you notice this reaction where it might be the first time that day that she's felt important or loved or, acknowledged. So, and how many of us are walking around that could use a little spike in that vibration just from feeling important, right? It's like the simplest things that we all require. So that turns into this amazing exchange. And I find out more about her, and then her friends join in. They're commenting on my watch. And then we have this beautiful conversation about how we can spread vibrations of love to a higher capacity. Another example is, this is a cheesy one. I went to Lollapalooza years ago, and so big into the festivals for a while that we wore these like ridiculous outfits, and I told all my friends, here's our experiment for today. This whole trip, we're gonna give high fives for anybody that smiles, and they're gonna explain why. It's positive feedback, right? So you're getting positive feedback, so it encourages more of that behavior, right? So next thing you know, you tell someone that, and then they're carry it on, and they're giving high fives to people that are smiling. And sometimes it's hard to make people smile. You got to tell them a stupid joke or whatever it takes, and then they get a high five. Then you tell them why, and then you create this ripple effect of spreading smiles for miles. Well, the last day, we've been there for like 3 days, and we're eating this beautiful breakfast on the John Hancock Tower. And I designate everyone as food connoisseurs. So this is a similar experiment that we got to do in Costa Rica. And it changes the game, right? So you start taking a look at your way of eating, your relationship with food, and how can we add a little vacation vibration to that and improve with intention that relationship. So as a food connoisseur, you get to smell your food first. Like we take time to really like take in the aroma, feel the taste buds just getting juicy. And that's the first form of digestion. So physiologically, this is the greatest way to assimilate your food. And secondly, you get to take your first bite while really tapping into like the textures, the flavors, and all the greatness that's going on in this whole experience, as if you're going to write a novel on it, right? And then you get to share it with your friends. And that's after we yum the food and put good energy into it and raise our vibration and get into a nice rest and digest mode before eating it. So it slows down the whole thing. And we had this huge buffet, but nobody needed to even eat that much because we're enjoying the food so much more. So that was a complete opposite of Charles 1.0, who used to be like wolfing down food in between clients, not even realizing what I just ate or what it tasted like and wondering why my digestion wasn't working well. So then we're sitting at dinner and we're sharing some laughs or brunch. And this random guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, you smiled, you get a high five." And the whole table just goes, "Oh, man," it came full circle. It was so it was just one of those moments that was, it's so easy to see how you can create a ripple effect just by taking the time to share some of those good feelings with others, and really, you know, send some of that positive vibration, that good feeling with others around you.
Man, that's a really beautiful story, dude. I like how it came full circle, and for me, what I'm hearing when I listen to that is, a lot of the time out there, I think in the world, people are like, how do I change the world? How do I stop this hunger and disease, and there's suffering and there's war, and then they'll bitch about Trump or whatever the heck they're doing. Which I love from a Canadian perspective, because it's just awesome. It always is like the same.
It's the greatest reality show ever. Yeah.
Yeah. And just I want to add this though, because I left it in a comment, and this is just like a side note for me. When you put all your energy into something else, right? It doesn't matter which president it is. You're using all that energy to, you're basically giving them your energy tokens. And like Street Fighter, you have a certain amount throughout the day. So you're consciously, and then so what two people are doing are all, the whole society is giving their energy coupons to something that is out of their control. You know what I mean? Right. Now, if you take those energy coupons and you create your dreams, you play with your kids, you build a solution. If you don't like how he did this, then build a solution. Stop whining about it, because it's not, none of that has created any kind of positive outcome. You've only just, through your own free will, given something outside of you your energy. So I just wanted to kind of share, because it's important.
No, that's you're exactly right. And you know, I think this all had to happen exactly the way it did. Trump is a great representation of our collective ego. So it allows us to take a look at that, right? But where you put your attention span, like you're saying, we have this magic wand that is literally, we're just directing it 24/7. And that's our attention. So wherever we're putting our attention in any moment, that's where our energy is flowing. So if you are putting your attention on the news, the bad news, the craziness, the drama in your life, then that is going to grow and expand in your life. You're going to experience more of that. So the more awareness you can put on that, or take time to take that attention inward and really tap into the ancient old questions. Who am I? Why am I here? You know, when you take your attention to those places, that's when you unravel some of this magic that we talk about and experience every day. And then you go back to the external world and you start seeing things differently. And that's what I love about vacation vibration, is that it's literally a chosen lens that you can create before you go into any environment. So it's a game changer. So hey, you want another example?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so I got to renew my ID at the DMV, right? The DMV. This is where everybody, you know, like DMV and hospitals, these are notorious, like the closest thing to hell, right? So they are just low vibration environments, right? And so knowing that, before you even step in that door, bringing the awareness that, wow, okay, I could easily succumb to this low vibration and just, you know, be sitting on my thumb, waiting in here in agony for the next scenario. Or you can choose with intention what you want to create in that environment, and see if you can invite a couple other people up to your vacation vibration, you know? So what I did was I just went in there with simple intention to see how many people I could make laugh and smile in the DMV. And I had 8 people laugh through all the interactions I had. I was doing a little yoga in the DMV, and that sparked up a few conversations. I did a meditation in the DMV, which was awesome. And then I even saw one of my friends there, and I went and harassed him while he was talking to one of the ladies working there. And it was so fun to watch, like as this unfolds. And you know, if you can get people laughing in the DMV and in the hospital, like Patch Adams, then you know you're on the right track. Like those are the places that need it the most, you know. And there's a million examples, but use your imagination and create a new lens to see through, because we already have all these veils that we're seeing our reality from our past experiences, all of our shame, our guilt, any of that we're holding on to is resistance. That's how we're seeing the world, through our experiences. So why not add on a new intention? Maybe it's you wake up and you tap into what you're grateful for, and then you decide, today I'm just going to have the most fun ever. And even going to work, what you might notice is that there's new scenarios that happen. Like, you might spark up a conversation with a friend, and next thing you know, you guys are cracking up over donuts or something ridiculous, right? And it's these little things. By creating that intention, you've just turned on your reticular activation. So reticular activation is that phenomenon that we all experience. It's the same thing that happens when you go get a new car and you're all excited because you're the only one with this new car, right? And then you start seeing the same car everywhere now. And you're like, wow, actually a lot of people have this too. And it wasn't that they weren't there before. It's just that now you've activated that reticular activation, and now it's on your radar. So we can literally create what we want to attract on that radar based on the power of intention. So that's why it's really key to start this stuff first thing in the morning. Because if you're waking up and you're hopping on your emails, your Facebook, your phone, what you're doing is training your body to get that dopamine fix right off the bat. That like, ooh, I got another like, sweet. It's like a Mario Brothers when you get a new coin. Ding! It's like this dopamine hit, right? So that is training our bodies to respond and react all day to things. So it's like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. And then it turns into this mental stress, and it creates the same phenomenon as if we're running from cheetahs, or you have to pick up a car off of somebody's leg. That's when we want to use that type of adrenaline and cortisol, not in our daily experiences from all the mental stress that we're creating. It's crazy, the physiological response of fight or flight mode compared to rest and digest mode, and how out of balance these have gotten with our human population in general, in my experience. And this is a lot of the stuff that I get to correct with my work, and teach tools to get us back into balance and enjoy those higher frequencies. So that's why I love what I do.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you shared a lot there that I want to touch on, because I agree with all of it. The first thing is just the pattern interrupt, and I think that you've studied NLP a little bit also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep.
So pattern interrupt, you can just imagine that your brain and your body is learning these things, and you have a routine, right? You get up, you grab your coffee, you read the newspaper, you go out the door, you go to work. On Friday you might have some beers with the boys, but it's basically the same pattern. And once that pattern is ingrained, you can look at the old guy that's like, grandpa's never going to change his way. Well, that's because that's seeded into his consciousness, and like that's the way. It's that neural pattern is so rooted, and so the pattern interrupt is just interrupting that pattern. And so you can choose to do that. And so you could do that by driving a different way home. You can do that from changing your perspective. You could try to eat somewhere, be like, I'm going to drive an hour to go to a different restaurant, like anything to just change your you never do yoga, do a yoga class, just something different. Yep. And so your body is in a new environment, and it now has to figure out different things, right? It's like maybe you've been in Square Village every day for the rest of for so many days, and you're going to go to Circle Town, right? And it's just different, but it's the same. So your mind is working a little differently. The other thing that I wanted to touch on, because I want to remember it, was, the impact that just you going around doing the high five story and seeing it come back, or trying to make people laugh, like setting the intention to make people laugh. I think that as a culture, and I think that the spiritual community and conscious community or whatever is really guilty of this, where we're like, okay, we're going to go to the seminar and we're going to do the meditation and we're going to align our chakras and we're going to grab the crystals and we're going to do the past life regression and we're going to get smudged and we're going to do all this stuff. And we can forget the power of saying hi in line. We forget that it's our daily interactions each and every moment as we meet people. That is the work. That's the work.
Yep.
It's not going to the Deepak Chopra thing tonight. So F everybody on the way to that thing. You know what I mean? It's on the way to the thing, because that's the people that we're helping, and just your smile and just your energy and that piece there, if we could all use that a little bit more, and we're bringing back to community, because what we're facing is this separation from each other. You know, we are a tribal people. Humans are tribal. People face massive loneliness. You know, nobody wants to look each other in the eye, and just looking at someone, you know, I'll notice this. It's more obvious in the States than it is in Canada, but looking at people in the eye and smiling at them, because they're going through these interactions and no one's actually paying attention a lot of the time. So don't think that action is too small. It's actually massive. And the last thing I'll touch on, because you touched on a lot of great points, was you know, these are all very profound things, you know, talking about switching your lenses of perception, right? If you walk out the house and everybody's out to get you, and there's somebody waiting around the corner to stab you and take your money and beat you down or whatever, and you decide in yourself, like, maybe the universe is on my side and I'm safe, that lens changes your reality. So ultimately what's happening is you're experiencing your own reality as Charles, you know, like, this is the Charles reality, and you're in these lenses and you're switching them out, and you're like, oh my God, this lens was really cool, and I just had this direct experience when I switched my lens, because it's like tuning a radio signal. So you chose you know, 98.42, which is like the rose color hertz of the vibration, and then reality showed you that when you made that switch, this is what changed in your hologram, in your video game, in your life experience. And that is only experienced by you and you alone. And what you're offering is that every single person has that exact same ability. And if they're to take that step, they're going to get that reality in their own hologram that switches it. But it has to be your choice. So ultimately you're changing your own reality through doing this. Like, you know, if I choose to do it, it'll change my reality. If I forget to do it and I look at my Facebook right away and I need the likes and I got to see how many podcast plays I'm doing, and I'm stressed out because I got a guest and I'm messing something up, and I throw my day out of whack, that's the lens I chose that day through lack of awareness, right? But then I'm like, okay, wait, just had Charles on, let's try this lens out. And then when I do that, I'm going to switch it. So it becomes my responsibility to take action on this information.
Exactly. And that, you're exactly right. You have we all have those days when you wake up and, you know, just things, you go to get your coffee and they don't have the milk you want. And you're like, oh man, this huge establishment, they don't even have coconut milk. Like, this is unbelievable. And then that creates a vibration, a momentum for your stubbing your toe on your way to your car, or your car got dinged, or, you know, and then all these things just keep unfolding. And it's all our choice, really. Like, that's what's crazy about it, is once you decide, like, oh man, this is a rough day, I'm having a tough day. When you throw in the towel to that, you've just turned your reticular activation on. That is now your truth in that moment. So the universe will show you proof of that. So I just choose wisely. And I recommend others do as well. And and there are those times when it's really hard to get out of that funk, that you know, that lower vibration place. And sometimes we have to feel worse before we can feel better. Sometimes there's a lesson in there that we need to learn, or you know, that's one of the greatest things that I love empowering people with, is ways, strategies, and tools to releasing resistance. Because we are the only species, other than our pets, that hold on to things in our body. So animals, you know, a zebra sees a lion, it's freaking in full fight or flight mode. It's like taking off. And then 15, 20 minutes later, when the environment's safe again, calms down, it's back into, you know, eating some grass, chilling out, and it's back to being present. Us, we have a way of recording all of this, and that becomes those big veils that we're seeing our reality through. We're like, oh, well, when I did this, when I expressed anger when I was young, you know, I got shunned. And so I know that's not a good behavior. And then that becomes recorded as a program that keeps running until we shed awareness on that. So all these programs, all these things are creating the lens at which we see our reality. So what I like to incorporate is choosing wisely your intent, your theme, your reality for the day, and finding ways that work for you of releasing resistance. Because that's literally the only thing that prevents us from acquiring anything that our heart desires. Now, the universe is always conspiring to help us. It's just showing us what's going on internally. So the more we are able to, you know, sit with the emotions that we weren't able to process, you know, those emotions are energy in motion. So if those are, you know, something that we wanted to shun down, like, I don't really want to feel grief right now. I don't want to deal with sadness and those kind of heavy emotions. Well, that becomes issues in our tissues, and it'll show up in a number of different ways. It can show up as restricted motion. It can show up as aches, pains, injuries. And this is all stuff we're interwoven between our emotional, metaphysical, physiological body, even spiritual. It's all intertwined, and our bodies are showing us in all times what's going on, giving us loud and clear messages. So if we can even use a different lens to receive those messages from our body, like, I remember, you know, when I had a back injury snowboarding, I remember yelling at my low back like it was a different entity. I was like, my fucking back, you know, it was like, it was so much anger. And yet that was such an important part of my process because one, it showed me that I had some anger that I hadn't expressed from past. Two, it was forcing me to become and establish a better relationship with my body. It was like, eventually I was able to see the signs and understand that this isn't actually just pain. Pain is, it's a check engine light. It was showing me loud and clear, hey, we're trying to protect you, but you're not listening. So we're just going to keep intensifying the message that we're sending, you know, the check engine light. How long do you go driving your car with your check engine light on before you get tuned up? You know, it's the same thing with our bodies. So that's why my whole past story is one from pain to purpose. And it's such a blessing that I broke my back up snowboarding because it put me on this journey to learning about the power of surrender, of letting go, of meditation, and really tuning into the infinite intelligence that's always available to us in these amazing temples that we get to roll with.
Amazing, man. It's beautiful. Again, you touched on a lot there. I want to dive deeper in a few of them. I think that for me, one of the things that I would like you to go deeper on is the how do we release resistance? You know, that is the key. That's the key to manifestation. It's the key to ease and grace, right? One simple example you already used was, you know, the lens you went into the DMV, right? It's like everyone just succumbs. Oh, it's got to be this terrible experience. Well, as a creator with free will, you're deciding all of it. So you just decided with your own consciousness, right, in that moment, like it's going to be. And as you served and as you were outside of yourself serving other self, you know, then you get rewarded. And so what happens is you get stuck in this lens and your reticular activation.
Yep.
It's kind of like what when you say that, it makes me feel like what happens is that your brain tunes to 98.2 or whatever that is.
Yep.
Your vacation vibration or however you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
And cool stuff keeps happening because that's now the signal you're on. And I'm sure you've experienced this where you're just like, the people you meet or the experiences you have, it starts with, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And then after a while, it's like, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, obviously this is the way it's going down, because you're on that signal. It just becomes now normal. And it starts as unbelievable, but that's what's happening. So maybe you can speak a little bit more on releasing resistance, like, oh, I'm going to write the book, and then we beat the crap out of ourselves, or, my back is sore, and, or this is the story that I have, and I can never get out of this story because this is the story and this is the way it is. And so how can we help someone create a new story and then release that resistance from just allowing it to come in? Because I feel like that right there is the challenge. My mentor, Michael Lozier, who wrote the book, The Law of Attraction, he's like, there's 3 steps to deliberate attraction. 1, be clear on what you want. Identify your desire. 2, give your desire attention, energy, and focus. And 3, which is allow it or believe it. And that's the biggest one. People put it on their vision board. And he goes, if you have 100% desire, my podcast supports me and I can travel the world, whatever. Or when I was younger, it was, I could snowboard every single day freely, whatever. And if I desire that 100% and I doubt it 100%, well, then I get 0. I get a cancellation wave. There's nothing. But if I can desire it 100% and have 0 resistance, then the manifestation happens at light speed in a way normally that you can't even see coming, right? Like someone's like, hey, I'm a book publisher. I'm like, no kidding. Right on.
Yeah.
So I'll give it back.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And there's what we have to understand is there's so many different types of resistance. If you're dealing with aches, imbalances in the body, pain, then see if you can really tune in and listen to it. See if you can find the message. And you might need to do a meditation to get there. Or I just find so many answers come in surrender. So that's where if I'm seeking answers, I get back to that place of sitting in the seat of consciousness and really tapping into the energy that's always available to us. And with that, you can get some help from, go see a neurokinetic therapist like myself and figure out what's going on in the body physiologically, which you'll probably find some emotional triggers as well, and then create a safe container to allow for some of that to come up. So what's interesting about this is, that's some of the physiological work that I do, but there's so many more aspects to it. I'm not going to dive into that yet because I want to tap into more on the releasing resistance. So say your resistance is something mental. We got some constructs. So say I'm calling it abundance. Like I want tons of money so that I can do all these great things. Right. And then here I am in my garden of cultivating. I have this weed of this old belief that money's the root of all evil, or that I'm not worthy of holding that amount of energy. Right. Like those are some major weeds in our garden that resistance that's kinking that hose from allowing all the abundance that we deserve and that we're worthy of to flow to us. So so really taking a look and shedding light on your beliefs, because our beliefs become our reality. So, and you can always tell whether they're working or not by where you're at right now in this moment. Like what financially are you, what's your belief around money? If I say, what does money mean to you? Is it do you have a good, bad connotation to it? Is it what's the energy there of that? And then if you notice throughout your day, it's really easy to find your body's always showing you where we're holding on to these aspects of resistance. Somebody cuts you off while you're driving, right? And you get pissed off. Like your reaction to that, your trigger is telling you a lot about what's going on in something that we haven't resolved internally. So it's funny because every time I get triggered, I actually see it as a gift now. And I want to thank that person that just pissed me off, because they just showed me something that's going on internally in my system that I haven't processed fully yet. So if I'm getting mad at somebody cutting me off, like, let's think about this. I've been the guy cutting others off before, You know, I'm like, what's the big deal? So you switch the role, and then I was like, whoa, that just evoked a really pissed off, you know, physiological response in me. Like, where is this anger coming from? And, you know, and then you could start piecing together, what was the last time I felt really angry, or what was the first time I felt really angry? And then when you're able to start diving into some of that maze of your collected history and all of these layers that we've put on through our life, then that's where you can start finding the golden nuggets and have an opportunity to release some of that anger. And that can be as simply as freaking Viking roars, right? Like Mike Bledsoe and I, we work out at the beach. I just came from the ocean, and we do an ocean swim, and then any resistance that's left over, or anything that's holding us back, or any you know, heavy weight, stress, any of that, we just literally like at the top of our lungs. It's just a Viking roar. And sometimes we'll do a couple of them because it feels so good, and just feel what that's like afterwards. Your body just instantly becomes lighter. It's like, whoa, what was I doing holding on to all that? And even you know, movement is just one of the greatest. Movement and breath are some of the greatest ways to release resistance. And it is literally this simple. Think of taking a giant deep breath, and on each exhale, you get to let go of anything that has been stressing you out. Each exhale is an opportunity to let that die, to release, to let go. So, or you can get real creative with it and say you're, you know, pissed off about taxes, and like, oh man, I'm pissed off about having to spend all this money on taxes. So then when you go to the bathroom, say pissed off. All right, let me release some of this resistance around doing taxes while I'm peeing. It's like a release, right? So then you can start reframing. So you just changed your vibration a little bit. You kind of made it a little humorous, right? So that changed your frequency, which you were listening to around taxes, right? We're usually like listening to super low vibration. This is like pulling teeth. So if you can change that frequency, now you're on a different station. It's a little bit higher vibration. Then you can start thinking, well, you know what? I'm abundant enough that I can afford to pay these taxes. I can afford to pay all my bills. That's cause for celebration. Like, let's face it, you know? And so then you can start tackling some of these, you know, higher level resistance sources, and incorporating some vacation vibration into that. And a lot of that means even reframing our ideals of emotions themselves. You know, I have found more beauty in sadness from losing my dad recently. Like, I feel like sitting with my father on his deathbed, and he is the king of celebration. He's the best storyteller I've ever known, and he's helped make me the man I am today. And here I am on his last breaths, getting to sit with him and be able to still tell him cognitively like how much he means to me, and express that to him before he moves on to another form of energy, was such a gift to me. And his friend came over and played the guitar, and I just sat there and just bawled and cried with my hand on my dad's shoulder. And I can't remember the last time that he saw me cry. You know, I remember, you know, I had that old belief that, you know, I'm a man, I can't show weakness and cry, or that's for girls. Like, where did I pick that up at? It's such an old, unworthy program. So in this moment, I got to just feel my body get overwhelmed with sadness to the point where I can't contain it all. And it comes out in liquid emotions that are able to express to my dad how much he means to me. It's fucking beautiful. So I just reframe all that, even grief, even depression. A lot of people are sitting with depression, and it's crazy, because what if we reframed what that actually is? So we're used to this. This is like our level of life. Like this is our capacity for life, right? Our ego likes to keep us right here. It's safe. We know we'll survive there. It's going to the same places, doing the same things. So as soon as we book a vacation, whoop, we just went a little bit higher, right? And now you're tapping into vacation vibration. Your body just got excited because we get something new, some novelty, and you get to go get a new experience, which makes our souls happy, right? But then the ego wants us to stay where it's nice and safe here. So now if you're willing to sit with some of these heavier emotions that we consider as so bad, then what you might find that in depression, even though you feel that you're willing to drop down and really sit with that and feel like, why am I depressed right now? Why am I feeling like I'm so separated from everyone? And if you're willing to go there and sit with that and really dive into any of the messages that come up and any of the intelligence and the reason why you're experiencing this, answers might flow to you. And what you'll find is that you might find some golden nuggets in there. You might find that, wow, there's other people that are experiencing this as well. Or you might find that you've had so much trouble asking for help. That was one of my lessons. I always loved being the superhero and being able to be the shining light. Then when it came to asking for help, I was like, no, I'll just go deal with my stuff over here. You know, I got all these tools and weapons. I can get myself back up. But then I'm actually discounting my friends and my loved ones. I'm foregoing the opportunity to create vulnerability and a deeper connection. I thought that was a reframe for me because finally I realized every time I'm not asking for help, I'm depriving one of my loved ones the opportunity to share their gifts and helping me. Because I know how great it feels when I get to help others, right? If you need something and I get to show up and be there for you through that, like that feels great. And it allows us a deeper connection because you were vulnerable enough to ask for that. So why would I miss out on all that? All because I feel like I shouldn't ask for help. So then maybe that's the lesson that you learn by sitting with this level of depression, right? Then you pulled this golden nugget out, combine that with some exercise and maybe to change your physiology. And then you're tapping into the natural pharmacy, the feel-good hormones that we naturally produce. Then you combine that with maybe, you know what, I'm going to go do some volunteer work today. I'm going to go help out, feed the homeless. Then what happens is you just discover that by channeling your energy into purpose instead of wallowing in this level of depression, that now what you've done, you might meet somebody at that volunteer organization that is your new lover or that you connect with and is your new best friend, right? And that way, what you've just done is you went from being able to drop down into this low level vibration, feeling that you're trying to avoid, trying to push off, and then you got a golden nugget from it. Now you get to share that. And then you were right here, even after vacation. Now you have a capacity even higher. Now you just increased your whole capacity for life. Basically, by sitting in this, willing to deal with it, this too will pass. You pulled out some golden nuggets, you get to share those, and now you're in love and you get to experience a higher level of vibration that you didn't even know was possible because of contrast, right? Like we can't understand white without black. So if we're willing to sit with the darkness, then you get to experience an equivalent and even just like blissful light experience on the other end of that once you conquer that mountain.
It's beautiful, brother. I totally agree. You've been sharing, I think, really deep truths in a very simple way. And again, I just like to kind of share that a lot of these things are simple. It's just the action in doing them. And, you know, sitting with the darkness, there's information there. There's information in sadness. There's information in depression. There's information in not feeling good enough, unworthy. Where does that come from? And the sitting with it, you don't need a guide who is a spiritual person connected to the Pleiadians and star systems, although again, that's really cool stuff. It's you being the master and sitting and asking, You know, where is this rooted? Where is this coming from? Why do I feel that way? And, you know, we're kind of conditioned to, like mask those feelings and, you know, do things like drink or, run away or do whatever, rather than just looking at them and sitting and being okay with that. And that's, you know, integrative shadow work. And all shadow work is just these parts of you where you're not feeling 100%. And you're looking at what memory, where is that connected to you? What memory, where does this come from? Is that real? And what, when you look at it, then that's like shining the light of awareness. You're going deeper. You're going into darkness with a light. And you're like, oh man, when I was 12, then I didn't feel good enough. I was like, okay, what's the lesson? Well, man, I still got to learn how to feel complete self-love and mess up. Complete self-love and know that I'm not the best. You know, where does this thought even come? And you basically, I call it un-F yourself, you know, when I'm doing coaching. You just like are a sounding board and they're just doing it themselves, you know, and allowing that, but just to kind of unravel and sit, because we want this external thing to tell us what it is. Right. And really, a lot of this stuff is you just guiding yourself and sitting with it, because you're correct. The deeper you can go down, you're allowing yourself more awareness, and you can reach new heights both ways. And the darkness isn't bad. It's just an experience. And we want life experience. You couldn't have the love for your father. And, you know, I was like, well, what would you rather, like not have a father your whole life that you love and respect, for the sadness that's going to occur at the end? Like, what experience do you want? And so you go through that, and it's, you know, probably unbelievably challenging, and thank you for sharing that. But, you know, maybe you can speak a little bit on, if somebody is going through that a little bit more. You shared a lot, but I think that depression and anxiety and like teen suicide and regular suicide and shame, people have deep shame, you know, guilt. Some people grew up and they had everything, you know, handed. They got like the Harvard school, they got the parents, they got everything, and then they do it, but they're like, I don't want this job. Like, where's this thing? And then, but all my friends have Mercedes, so I got to figure out a job that I have a Mercedes, or I'm not good enough. And you got people who grew up in like lower middle class, and like, how do I get to the Mercedes and like this thing that matters? But then I got to find purpose. And then we're just, no matter where we are in Western society, it's almost like it's not good enough. And we're going through our own shame, our own guilt, our own unworthiness through comparison, through all these things that are outside of us, and everybody essentially telling you that it's real. This is real. This is the important stuff. And you got to be in it. Now, you and I both know that that is horseshit, and we are outside of it, but we still deal with the same thing. We're refining our lenses within ourselves, and then we're mirrors for each other to help guide when it kind of gets all mangled, and be like, yo, I can't find a lens. Somebody please help. I'm stuck down here.
And that's why we have each other. That's why I love you, brother. You get it. And you can call in those resources. I like calling it thinking from the place of completion, right? So train your brain to think from what it is you want, right? So I want a home on the ocean with a pool, and I only want to pay this much, and I want a sanctuary where I can tune up my clients and empower people, and I want a golden retriever, so I tap into elevated state of emotion by feeling the gratitude of already having that in every cell of my body. That is where the magic happens. So the more consistently you can do that, you'll notice some resistance come up. Like, I don't know if I can find a place like that for that price, right? That's one of those thoughts. That's one of those waves you can let go by, get back to the seat of awareness, and tap into the infinite possibilities that are available to you, and hone in on the feeling of it already happening. It's already done. And that's where the difference between being and surrendering and trying to do and be like in it, anxiety, fight or flight mode. We're only focusing on what's right here when we're in fight or flight mode. So we're not getting a lot of answers in those states, and it's wreaking havoc on our bodies, our minds, and these patterns. So what I teach, one of my programs is called Unleash Your Inner Strength. So one of the first things that we take a look at is breath, right? I call it breath play because, you know, you don't work the piano, right? You don't work the guitar. Guitarist isn't working, they're playing it, right? So we have the greatest tool right under our nose that we don't use enough. So I teach these amazing breath techniques. One of them is expansion breathing. And you combine that with proper alignment, feeling that alignment in your body so that the energy can continue to flow, and optimal activation of the core muscles. So those three combined, and then learning this technique, it's like essentially creating a bulletproof core. So once you master this technique, you can apply this to all of your playing, all of your exercises, all your workouts, picking things up, anything, and it makes you instantly stronger just by getting this down. And it's so fun to watch my clients just go nuts over this because it's very experiential, and it's once you get it, it's turned on like that. And so this program has just been revolutionized my clients' lives, because what happens is once you build a strong foundation here, well, first let me back up. You'd be amazed with how many people I experience are walking around without their deep intrinsic core muscles even firing. So you got the six-pack abs, those are firing good when we muscle test them. Where you go under that, there's this transverse abdominis, and that's the muscles that it's stabilizing your spine. It's like your internal weight belt, right? So those should be firing milliseconds before you do any moves. And a lot of people are not even getting a good signal to those muscle groups. So I figure out why. And that's why neurokinetic therapy is so great, because it's just such a fast way of using muscle testing, getting the history, figuring out the root cause of the problem instead of just trying to treat symptoms. So once we figure out, a lot of times, one example would be a client. So I would test that muscle group and it goes really weak, right? So we know it's not firing. We need to figure out why. So I use my detective work. Okay, they've been under a lot of emotional stress, so I have them clench their jaw. And then we test that same muscle group. Guess what? It turns on. So we've just hit the jackpot. We figured out their jaw is overcompensating for the intrinsic core muscles. So what that means is, think of your nervous system as highways, like roads, right? And there's cars. The cars are signals from your brain to those muscles to contract, to fire when they need to help stabilize your spine so that you can move well and function good. So then those cars, those signals come back up to your brain and give you feedback. Well, what happens is we get blocks, we get resistance. So in this case, it would be a traffic jam right at the jaw. And that can be for a number of reasons, right? If somebody's under a lot of emotional stress, jaw is associated with the limbic system, so they're probably clenching a lot. And a lot of times it'll show up on the right side if you are in the masculine too much. If you're like, I gotta be doing, I gotta go out, bring home the bacon. So I've actually seen this a lot. Over 15 of my clients that have been just badass, game-changing, heart-centered women entrepreneurs have had this in common. And it's just blowing my mind, because for me, it's so easy to correct and show them what's going on. So it's literally a 1 or 2 session and they are, totally restored. You got these muscles firing again. And then I give them a couple tools and tips and exercises to keep that reinforced. And next thing you know, you restore function and the low back pain disappears, or the aches and pains, the misalignments. The check engine lights aren't coming on anymore because you've restored function in the body and it's happy again. So that's what we start with as a foundation for unleashing your inner strength. And then what happens is the clients apply this to my exercises, my programs. They're very quick, efficient, and effective 30-minute workouts. And those workouts, you combine this work, the bulletproof core, with that, and the gains just go like this. And then the best part that I love the most is that by building that strong foundation and seeing that progress so fast, the confidence that just skyrockets in every aspect of their life is what just really freaking tickles my soul. Like that's what gets me fired up about this stuff. It's so cool to see. I mean, it's like seeing, it's like seeing your a dog with a tail tail between its leg coming to you, and then you take him in, you get him all washed up, and next thing you know, he leaves and he's just wagging his tail. He's just freaking stoked and confident and loving life. And like, that's kind of how my sessions go. And it just makes it really fun for me. So it's really easy to incorporate vacation vibration into what I do. and I've chosen that path. That's why I've made my message, and I've turned my pain into my purpose. And now I get to help others and express that as well. And then, my high level empowerment coaching has to do a lot more with emotional release, and a lot of the, holding space for anything that needs to come up and out. And that's when you go from these heavy, dark places to a lot of the lighter, more heightened states, frequencies that become your new default. It's like, wow, I didn't know that was possible. Yeah, well, you just let go of a ton of baggage that you've been holding on for who knows how many years, right? So no wonder you feel light. That's why angels can fly, right? They take themselves lightly.
Amazing, man. Yeah, you shared a lot that was really beautiful and profound. I'm curious. I definitely want to do that test now to see if my my muscles are on.
It's so fascinating. Yeah.
And I remember talking.
Come try it out.
I remember talking to Bledsoe at the festival at Envision, and we're just talking about workouts or whatever, because I just said before, he's like made of lead. Like, I know a lot of very like strong people, but he's about my size, about the same height. Give him a hug. He's like compacted muscle, like so densely. It's like fully lead. But he said workouts are around strengthening his central nervous system and spine. Just well, I think maybe just said spine, but that's really fascinating around how that's all connected to everything. And so that's a little bit part of your work, which I'm unaware of. So I'm definitely curious about. And I know the power of breath and all that kind of stuff. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on, man, and sharing your vacation vibration and vibe, and really beautiful conversation. I know you have some things to do, but just wanted to acknowledge and appreciate you for, again, like who you are. I see a lot of people out there doing different things, but you are the thing, like you're an amazing human, spreading love. And even if I could just like say, like what excites me most about it is like, you're that person in the world. You're not like, okay, come to my seminar and do my coaching and then I'll be this guy. I'm this guy when you see me everywhere. And that's what we need. You don't need to write a book. You don't need to go through these extraordinary things. You don't need to go get a blessing from the Dalai Lama or Tony Robbins or whoever. The code is you mastering your own lens and being that, so other people can observe that possibility. You're reframing your own possibility, but the main benefit is your own lens. You take off the life is terrible lens and you empower yourself with the life is amazing lens. And the universe is like, yes, we've been telling you this the whole time. You just continuously ignore us and would rather choose this lens. And so, really beautiful.
That's called, I appreciate that. That is, I'm fully receiving that right now. And we have a term for that. In Nicaragua, they call it dia cachimba. Dia cachimba. And that means fuck yes. That is when you're living a fuck yes life. And that it is the best feeling. There's no maybes, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's just feel it out in your body. As your intuition say fuck yes, then boom, that's where you're going.
Amazing, man.
So I highly encourage that. And Matt, I appreciate you so much, brother. It's great connecting with you, and I look forward to many more adventures. So to the best, brother.
Yeah, man.
Well, way to spread the word.
I appreciate that too. But before we go, just how do people find you? And if you have any thoughts, lay it on us.
Yeah.
Spit that last sentence out.
Yeah, right. So we've used a lot of words, man. So you want to check out my website, greatestyou.com. That's greatest capital letter U.com. Tons of tools, strategies, learn how to release resistance, check out more about what I'm into, what I'm doing, how I'm giving back to the world, my services. And then also feel free to add me on Facebook, throwing up all kinds of new content there. I'm going to be putting together a new Facebook page, so you can join that group as well. and that is Feel Better Now. So that's going to be the new latest and greatest way to get all the juicy stuff. And my last message is, if we want world peace, it starts with inner peace. So take that wand of attention and bring it inward and find the magic that lies there.
Beautiful, man. Couldn't agree more. Hardcore, fuck yes.
Dia Kachimba. Just say it, man. It feels so good. You're gonna say it just once.
What's the
Dia Kachimba.
Dia Kachimba.
Yes. You got it.
I'm gonna go. Yes. I'm gonna go scream that outside. On the screaming note when I was trekking Everest and going in the mountains, I'll do like screams, and it's so good. And
you have to.
Yes,
you have to. It's the best, and you're living a Dia Kachimba life, brother. That's why I love you.
Yeah, man.
Keep it up.
Too. Well, thank you, brother. I love and appreciate you, and I appreciate all that wisdom you shared. And thanks everybody for watching. Catch you in the next one.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.
Peace.